Progressive Insurance. Buffalo and Miami, game of the weekend, potentially in the NFL. Good morning, everybody. Along with Michelle Smallman, Chris Canty, Evan Cohen with you. And are we going with the Christmas vibe unintentionally today? We got red and green on our show. Did we plan this? Because I don't think so.
Well, I know I plan to wear this shirt, and this is a shout-out to the good brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi, my fraternity. We're celebrating our Founders Day today. Word to Elder Watson Diggs. I just want all of the noobs out there to celebrate safely and responsibly this weekend. Happy J5.
Okay, so CC's shirt obviously is awesome and has meaning. Mine was just the first I grabbed out of my closet this morning.
Can I give you a little teaser? Because you guys may not have seen this, but, well, the audience certainly did not. Dan Graziano, ESPN NFL reporter, is going to join us in about an hour and a half. He's wearing green also.
No, stop
No
it.
joke. I'm not kidding. We're going to have 2 green, 2 red on the set today of Unsportsmanlike. So it's Merry Christmas, CC.
No, it's Merry New Year.
Merry New Year. Happy New Year,
Merry New Year.
CC. Everybody knows CC loves it.
Happy
New Year. All right, Week 18 NFL, last weekend of the year in the National Football League's regular season, of course. The game that has been deemed the game, right? I mean, NFL moved it to Sunday Night Football. The Dolphins and the Bills, it's for the AFC East, but I do want to point out, because we do like the doomsday scenarios on this show, specifically with the Buffalo Bills, because, Smalls, I'm going to leave you out of this. You haven't been as harsh on them as Cece and I have been all year long in terms of our frustration with turnovers and McDermott, etc. Cece, imagine if, hypothetically, Jacksonville wins, Pittsburgh wins, there's a winner in Houston, Indy. We're not only talking about a game for the division on Sunday night, we're talking about a potential elimination game for the Buffalo Bills.
No, and it should be an elimination game for Sean McDermott as well, right? With all of the turmoil that this team has been through this year, with all of the injuries on the defensive side of the ball, they still found themselves in this situation. And you already scapegoated your offensive coordinator in Ken Dorsey. The Bills absolutely have to find a way to be able to get this done. They have to be able to go on the road and beat a division opponent in order to punch their ticket to the postseason. Otherwise, I think it's safe to say that the overall program in Buffalo has regressed. And if that's the case, if we come to that conclusion after Week 18, I don't know how Sean McDermott's job is not on the chopping block. I mean, you just consider the fact that this team has been in the postseason every year under Sean McDermott, except for Josh Allen's rookie year. If you find yourself getting bounced earlier and earlier in the postseason, which has been the way things have trended over the last 3 years, and then you're on the outside looking in with Josh Allen, one of the most dangerous weapons in the National Football League at the most important spot in all of team sports, then your job should absolutely be called into question.
I could not agree more. Brought it up before the season as something to watch, and he's one of those guys that could get fired on a Monday and hired by somebody else on a Wednesday. I don't think any of us are saying that he's not a good coach. It just time would run out. Now, Smalls, the flip side of this with the Bills, they've won 4 games in a row, and it started with a game that you predicted where they would win on the road at the Chiefs, because you get every Chiefs game right, no matter what it is. It's unbelievable. I've never seen somebody get more things right about one team than you with the Chiefs. But should we look at Buffalo maybe the other way off of this winning streak here, or no?
What do you mean by that?
Positively.
Oh, positively,
Cece and I
yes.
are looking at him always negatively.
Yes, of course. Why wouldn't you look at it positively? They're one of the hottest teams in the league. They've been hottest teams in the league right now, I should say. Obviously, It hasn't been that way all season long. They have been to the playoffs. They kind of know that routine. They have the muscle memory of what it takes to gear up for the postseason. And Josh Allen is one of those game breaker type quarterbacks. You know that he can step in and he can make that big play happen. I look at the Buffalo Bills and I think they're a better team than the Miami Dolphins. And I think that they're one of those teams you got to keep an eye out for. And I know that if things don't work out for them, that they have a very precarious offseason. I always think about Nuno with his ledger now when I think about contract situations. Our producer Nuno has a ledger where he writes down all of his expenses. The Buffalo Bills are going to have a very complicated ledger this offseason. They have cap issues, they have salary issues, contract issues that they have to deal with. So I think that all of that pressure certainly is facing them, but I don't know if that, even if it weren't to work out, if that's enough to remove Sean McDermott from the job. Sometimes you do need a fresh voice, but I think he's done a great job with the Bills, and as you said, he's going to get snapped up somewhere else immediately if they were to move on from him. I just think you need to be very careful when you decide to move on from a coach who's had a lot of success.
Understood. But, like, if we play out this scenario, I feel like everyone would feel better about this, or at least Cece and I probably would. Cece, like, if we put him back on his old team in Carolina where he came from as a head coach, I feel like you'd feel better about Carolina, And you'd also feel better about Buffalo in terms of their direction, maybe getting somebody else, right? Like, it's not that he's bad. It's just you can't miss the playoffs with this team, can you?
No, you can't. And it's not like we haven't seen this in recent memory with NFL coaches. I mean, think about what happened with Doug Peterson in Philadelphia.
Yep.
I mean, Pat Costello is very familiar with it. They missed the playoffs Carson Wentz rookie year, but then they're in the tournament 3 straight years, including winning the Super Bowl, and they fired the guy after his 5th season. That actually happened. You go back to the early 2000s with the Tampa Bay Bucks and Tony Dungy. They're in the playoffs 4 of the 6 years he's there, including a conference championship game appearance where they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champs in the St. Louis Rams. And guess what happens? They fire him in 2001, hire John Gruden, and then the team wins the Super Bowl in 2002. So it's not as if we haven't seen precedents of coaches that have been able to show sustained success and have their team in the postseason routinely and have their team in the championship rounds. Teams eventually move on from it because they think that it's run its course with that current coach. Maybe Sean McDermott is taking the Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen as far as he can take them. And based on how the Bills have played it the last 3 weeks, based on how they've called games and not utilized Josh Allen to the degree that we've seen in the past. Remember, 66 pass attempts over the last 3 games for Josh Allen. There's clearly been a wall that this player has hit, and maybe Sean McDermott is not the coach to get him to break through that wall. And if that's the case, then you've got to get a new coach and a new voice in there that can help Josh Allen continue to evolve. Otherwise, this team ain't winning a title.
The flip side of this is everyone thinks the Bills are going to win this weekend. They're favored on the road at Miami. And we sat here yesterday on our show, and people go back on the ESPN app and listen to the podcast, and we talked about all of the backup quarterbacks, all the injuries for Week 18 / all of the guys who are resting for the playoffs in Week 18 at the quarterback position. And I think we had, 61 quarterbacks that have started already this season, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. So amongst all of these backup quarterbacks, guess who has a chance of starting his 17th game on Sunday? Tua. I mean,
crazy.
think about that,
It's
right?
crazy.
That's wild.
I was thinking about a lot of the storylines that we really talked about and that we thought could be big X factors heading into this NFL season. And how many times did we have the conversation, can Tua stay healthy? The Miami Dolphins can only go as far as Tua, and we don't know if he can stay healthy based on the injury history that we saw last year. And with all these quarterbacks that have gone down, to think that this guy has made it a full season healthy, who had that on their bingo card heading into this season?
Not I, Smalls, not I. But I will say this. The Dolphins have expressed a certain degree of conviction when it comes to Tua that not a lot of other people that cover the NFL simply have. But I'll say this. If this dude wins this game and they win the division and they can potentially win a playoff game, then all of a sudden I would feel a lot better about Tua getting a $250 million contract, right? The going rate for quarterbacks is $50 million a year. He's going into his option. He'll be going into his option.
CC, say that again. Let that sink in, everybody. The going rate for a starting quarterback is what?
The going rate for a starting quarterback is $50 million a year. And it's only going to go up. It's only going to go up. Think about this. The Dallas Cowboys have to pay Dak Prescott this offseason. So, I mean, that's going to continue to move the bar forward. If you're the Dolphins, that's the magnitude of the decision you have to make. You've got to determine whether or not you feel comfortable paying Tua $50 million a year and a guarantee somewhere in the ballpark of, $160, $170 million. That's what it's going to be. And so if I'm going to believe that my quarterback is worth that kind of spend, then he's got to show me in games like this where the division is on the line, where playoff seeding is on the line, that he can get it done, regardless of the circumstances. And that hasn't always been the case. Now, remember, you find yourself in this situation if you're the Dolphins because you lost a Monday night game to the Tennessee Titans in the month of December. If you win that game, the division's not on the line. You've already wrapped that up. But the fact is you lost that game, and in that game, Tyreek Hill missed about 2 quarters of gameplay with an injury. So I need to see Tua be able to elevate everybody around him, and these are the games where that shows up. And so that's why this is such a big game for the Miami Dolphins organization in terms of being able to evaluate their quarterback for the long term.
Everything you said, CC, is correct. And this would certainly be a line on the resume for Tua that you bold. This is one of those things that you always go back to. But do you think he's done enough already to merit that? I mean, he's proved that he could stay healthy. I guess shout out to jiu-jitsu because it worked for him.
Shout out to jiu-jitsu.
I mean, shout out to jiu-jitsu. It works for him.
Is jiu-jitsu listening right now? Shout out to jiu-jitsu.
Great
Okay,
work. Great work. He has proven that he can be the centerpiece and the engineer of the highest powered offense in the NFL. He works well with his teammates. He certainly has synergy with his head coach. His head coach knows how to utilize him. He's comfortable there. He's been a great leader. I wonder if he's already done enough up to this point where this game may not make or break his future contract situation.
Well, Smalls, you don't pay a guy $250 million just to be a good quarterback. You pay that guy to help you compete at a championship level. And I don't know that Tua can do that. Now, I'm not trying to move the goalposts. The first priority this year was to make sure that he could stay healthy. But he's also led the league in passing yards. He leads the league in completion percentage, yet he's 13th in QBR. So what that tells me is a lot of his production is about the pieces around him, and it's also about the X's and O's that Mike McDaniel dials up. Now, I'm not knocking him for being able to execute, but it's also about value over replacement relative to what other quarterbacks could do.
Mình đây là cô Tiên. Hôm nay mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn tôi bước chân